Okay, I just did that here. We have negative pi over 4 minus pi. Okay, so this is pi over 4 minus 4 pi over 4 gives us a negative 3 pi over 4. But a negative 3 pi over 4 times a negative is a positive 3 pi over 4. And this is all divided by 2 pi. And so that becomes 3 pi over 8 pi. The pi's cancel, and we have 3/8. Put that down where you can see it. So we plugged in, what we're doing here is this is theta minus pi minus, okay, and this was over 2 pi. What we're doing here is we're saying x equals this, okay. And we went here and said pi over 4 is theta. So we plug pi over 4 in for theta. And that's how we get 3/8. And that gives us this number. And we continue plugging each one of these in for theta. And we'll notice we're jumping up in increments of 1/8 each time. We go from 1/8 down to 0 to minus an eighth. So to check our pattern, make sure we haven't made a mistake, let's do one down here. Let's do the last one and see if it comes out to minus 4/8. So 8 pi over 4, plug that in for theta, minus 4 pi over 4, right, would be 4 pi over 4. And then it's negative though, so negative 4 pi over 4 divided by 2 pi. So we had negative 4 pi over 4, and that divided by 2 pi equals minus 4 pi, okay, over 8 pi. And those cancel, so we should get minus 4/8 or minus a half. And that's what we got. So we know our pattern was right. So now we use our wheel. We go around, we get the sine of theta from our wheel. All right, then here our y value, which we're going to graph, is the whole equation. We've already got sine of theta. So remember, this whole thing here is just sine of theta. So all we have to do is multiply these sine of theta values by 4, and we're done because our b was 0, right? We didn't add anything out here. So we just take this, multiply it by 4, and we get the number. So 4 times 1 over the square root of 2 is 4 over the square root of 2. And again, just write an approximate decimal number from your calculator. Notice since it's a sine function, they're going to repeat. You're going to have the same number in a couple places here. So you only have to calculate that once, calculate, and it's the same number here. So we just need a minus sign, and we're done. Then we plot the points. We get our first x value. Okay. Well, this is an x scale here, okay? So this is x. So the function, the lowest x value is actually at the bottom of this list. The lowest x value is at the bottom of this list. And so we get minus 4/8 for our lowest x value, and our y value is 0. Then we increase 1/8 to minus 3/8 in x, and we see what y is. And here's y, minus 2.83. And then continue at the next minus 2/8. We find out that y is negative 4, and we do that, we go through all these points in this list here, okay? And so that is our function. Again, it's a sine function. The basic function is a sine function. It's a mirror image because it had a negative sign, so it gets flipped about the axis, okay? And it had a phase shift of 1/2, and that's a positive number, so that's a shift to the left. of 1/2. And notice 4/8 is 1/2. Okay, so that's our phase shift. And then there's no vertical shift, so our midline is going to be at y equals 0. And our period of this function is this distance here. And our period goes from negative 4/8 to plus 4/8. So our period equals t equals 1. Okay. And so just to show you some of these equations, how they're related, remember omega was 2 pi f. Well, f equals 1 over t. Okay. So if we know what omega is, omega was 2 pi. All right. So in here, this gives us f equals omega over 2 pi, right? From this equation, if we solve for f, it's omega over 2 pi. And f is 1 over the period. Let's see.